So
Yeah.
while you're doing that, maybe I'll get started and then we'll just make sure Sean comes on. Are you all right doing that, Diane?
Yeah, I'm trying to do them right now. Promote to panelist. And it's telling me it failed to change the role and it's giving me an error code. That's all I do, right? I click more and then promote to panelist.
Yeah, it won't let you do it.
It's not letting me do it. No, it's telling me I am getting an error code. Ethan, do you know?
Could you read me the error?
Yep.
Can you read me the error code real quick?
Yep, error code 3041.
I think it's because Sean was added as a co-host and then tried to join through the generic link.
Does he have the other link, maybe?
Sean, if you can, okay, he's gone. I
He
just want to
should
make
have
sure Patrick's in there too. If you want to promote Patrick, just to make sure you can do it, and then we'll get started. You see Patrick in there?
Yeah, I just tried doing it. I got the same error code, I think. Patrick, are you there? Oh, he's there. He's here.
Okay. All right. So why don't we, if you can keep working on that, let me know if Amy or Diane, just let me know if Sean can't get on, but we'll get started. Welcome to the May 11th Select Board meeting. Sorry for the technical Zoom issues. We will start the meeting as we always do with public comments. Public comment is a chance for residents to provide public comment. If you have comments on town staff, then we ask you to just communicate with the town administrator offline for any comments relating to town staff. If there is public comment, I think if it is okay with the other select board members, if there's public comment having to do with the elementary school, I think maybe we'll save it for when we have that discussion. But otherwise, I do see one hand raised, Steve Rosenberg, but I think you may be wanting to comment on the school, which we'll be discussing in a few minutes. So if you want to lower your hand, if that's the case, if not, we can promote you.
Hey, Neil, before you go much further, just to keep in mind, we voted to close the public hearing on the earth removal, so we can certainly hear from people, but at this point, we're trying to deliberate and finish.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just, if people want to comment on it, I just think maybe we do it at that time. All right, Cindy, it looks like Cindy Cavallaro has her hand up. If you could promote her. And also, if people have public comment and they want to email me at nduffy@swampscottma.gov, you can do it that way as well. And I will try to keep an eye on my email.
Hi, Neil. Can you hear me?
I can. Yep. Hi, Cindy.
Hi, everybody. Just wondering if anyone happened to attend the ZBA last night and having the board support as well as the town administrator, as well as the planning board, your opinions or your feelings about the end of the meeting and the results for Elm Place.
Any of the board members care to comment?
Yeah, so I think it was Monday night was the zoning board. I didn't attend, and I think the town administrator submitted a letter at the prior meeting articulating a pretty strong position. And so I don't know that the select board really should be on the record. It's still an open matter before the zoning board. I think the prior select board made very clear their feelings about the Elm Place project.
All right. Thanks, Cindy. Do you want to say anything else about the project?
No, just disappointed at the outcome. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining. All right, let me just make sure I don't. Okay, nothing in my email. So with that, I don't see any other hands raised. So I think we will move on to the town administrator's report. If Sean is here, which I think he is.
Sean, you're muted.
Sorry, 1 second. Neil, so tonight, the board will review some of the changes with the earth removal permit. I did meet several times with members of the earth removal committee last week and this week, and we've added some additional language that strengthens what I think really reflects the owner's responsibilities. We are the town, and we certainly want to make sure the neighborhood has access to effective representation. We certainly have made some changes with our hiring process for our police and fire departments, but I'm particularly pleased with the work that we've done in the fire department. When we started in October of 2021, our fire department below the rank of chief was 100% male and 100% white. And frankly, you know, as we look at the department today, after 6 months, considering all of our new hires have successfully completed their screening and their probationary periods, we'll have a department that is 90.6% white, 9.4% black, and 6.2% female. Now, these are just numbers, but what's more important to me is we've really hired some absolutely excellent and extraordinary individuals, and we're really creating a more inclusive and extraordinary public safety function. I really am pleased with all of the individuals that have played a role in helping us create opportunities for a broader segment of our society to step forward in public safety in these complicated positions. Want to thank Chief Archer and Chief Caseta and all the men and women that work for our police and fire departments for helping to lead this type of change. I did receive an update from our library board that they have completed their efforts to finalize recommendations or semi-finalists for the town administrator to review. I expect that I'll be interviewing several candidates over the next week and have a recommendation to the select board sometime within the next week. I'll ask the library board to join me as we present a recommendation to the select board for this incredibly important position. Over the last week, I've met with our recreation director several times to discuss really updating our recreation calendar. We have so many programs and so many initiatives that we've started to add to the recreation calendar, and I'm really excited about these events. We're going to be getting some flyers out, so you can check the website and certainly check our newsletter, but there's a whole array of programs for June, July, August, and September that are no cost and low cost activities for families and our youth to really enjoy really getting back to building community. Last week I did have a discussion with Chief Caseta about implementing body cameras. I have reviewed a quote that we've worked on over the last 6 months. Chief Kurz and Lieutenant Lord have worked extensively on refining the quote and really selecting body cameras that the city of Lynn uses and other Massachusetts municipalities use that really will go a long way in helping Swampscott implement a program that not only will help build transparency with our public safety function, but help protect our officers and provide a real important tool. Our all ages director is here tonight to talk about a lot of the great things that we're doing with our senior center. We're actively planning events and outings, and more programs are really kicking off. So if you're eager to get involved, I would encourage you to head down to the Senior Center and really check out some of the great activities that are evolving. We have an absolutely fantastic team, and it's exciting to see all the initiatives. In particular, I'm pleased that our director really sees the importance of going cleaner and greener, and she's really on board with getting an electric van. So she'll be looking at grant applications and working with a number of committees to help ensure that we're a little cleaner and greener. That's my report.
Thanks, Sean. Any questions from board members on any of that? Okay. Great. I just want to mention for anyone watching the meeting that we do have an agenda item, discussion and possible vote on a comments letter to Mass Housing on the eligibility of the Atlantic Bay View Residences project, and that letter is not ready, so we won't be having that discussion tonight. Likely will be happening next Monday night at our meeting before town meeting. So just in case anyone is watching to hear that conversation, it's not happening tonight.
However, Neil, we can still encourage residents who want to be heard and have their thoughts and comments heard to address a letter to Michael Busby at Mass Housing, and please email that letter to Marzi Galaska with the Town of Swampscott Community Development. Her email is mgalaska, GALAZKA at swampscottma.gov. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem at all. Thanks, David. All right, so first item on the agenda is Director of the Health Department, Jeff Vaughan, is here to ask us to approve an opt-out of a mosquito spraying law. And so I don't know if Jeff is in attendance, Sean, or if you're taking this. If Jeff's here, if he can be promoted, Diane.
I just promoted him.
Yeah, there he is. Hi, Jeff.
Jeff, you're on mute.
Jeff, you're muted. We can't hear you if you're talking.
Yeah, I can just lead into this. I think Board of Health has really been focused on some of the concerns around ground spraying and pesticides, and Jeff is really here to seek a vote from the board regarding some of the new regulations that allow the Mosquito Control Board to do some spraying of mosquito pesticides in Swampscott. So there you are, Jeff. Let's talk about some of the concerns regarding mosquitoes and public health.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate it. Good morning. Good evening. I'm Jeff Vaughan, your Public Health Director. Thank you for your time. I'm coming before this board looking for a certified vote to opt out of Mass General Law, Chapter 252, Section 2A, which was enacted in 2020. It is called an Act to Mitigate Arbovirus in the Commonwealth. But first, I would like to mention a couple definitions and some facts. Eastern equine encephalitis, also known as EEE, is a rare but serious disease caused by a virus. The virus that causes EEE is spread through the bite of an infected mosquito, who get that from infected birds. During routine weekly mosquito surveillance in town during the summer, no mosquito has ever been found to carry EEE. Swampscott does not have a breeding environment preferable to the current mosquito species that carry EEE. Outbreaks of EEE usually occur in Massachusetts every 10 to 20 years, typically last 2 to 3 years. Our most recent outbreak began in 2019. The majority of EEE cases that have been found in the state have been from the counties of Bristol, Plymouth, and Norfolk. I would like now to distinguish a difference between mosquito control boards. Swampscott as part of the Northeast Mosquito Control District, which is basically the North Shore, Cape Ann, and all the communities going up 95 toward New Hampshire. As per our Board of Health plan with the district, they use traps to collect mosquitoes. They then test the mosquitoes for the virus. And the district also provides larviciding for our storm drains during the summer with a safe product that targets mosquito larvae. They also give us education and information stuff to send out if we do find mosquitoes that have this issue, that we can go out and educate everybody else at that time. I also do a pre-season type of reverse call that also will cover that stuff. There is also the state Reclamation and Mosquito Control Board, which is where our mosquito control district falls under, as well as all the other mosquito control districts in the state. So just so there's a little idea of what's what. So getting back to M.G.L. Chapter 252, Section 2A, a law which, well, we know what the law is for, but basically a law which says that if the state Department of Public Health declares a public health hazard with regard to EEE without us having an opt-out plan approved by the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs, or EEA, then we would have no say whether or not spraying of any type, although it is usually aerosol spraying and an adulticide, would occur in town, nor the type of pesticide used, and individual residents also cannot be able to opt out. So in conclusion, I'm here to fulfill the requirements of the EEA in order to opt out of this new law. So basically, I would need to do a couple of things, and that's why I'm here. The review of the historical arbovirus risk level classification. I've done this. There have been no mosquitoes in town. There have been no known human cases or animal cases in Swampscott. That also goes for Marblehead too, which is also going to be trying to opt out. Provide EEA with a plan that includes 3 educational outreach activities. That's something that I can do easily. That's not a problem. I need a copy of a certified vote by the local select board, which includes confirmation that the board, BOH, was consulted. On 5/4, Board of Health had a meeting. An agenda item was regarding this, and we did speak about this. And that the Board of Health felt it was important to have local control within our regional district. Also need to have public comment, which obviously we do allow here. And indication that the municipality is opting out of all spraying from the State Mosquito Control Board through this law. And with understanding that the vote to opt out will only be honored if all application components are submitted to the EEA on time and the application is approved. And on time means by May 27th. That's why it's a kind of a quick turnaround. So that's where I am. I'll entertain any questions.
Any questions from the board?
Jeff, you had mentioned that the Board of Health had held a meeting and had this as an agenda item. Did they was there a vote taken at that May 4th meeting?
No, it didn't require a vote for this. It was just consultation and hearing back their reply. And their reply was two out of the 3 members, the one wasn't there. They both agreed that this was something that the Board of Health, just so we know that every year we have a plan that goes through. It's usually back in February, March with the Mosquito Control Board. It hasn't changed in years. It's been the same thing. Each board, as they go through, they'll look at it every year, or they'll just have me look at it and I'll tell them any changes if there are any changes. So that's kind of the process of it. So they're in full agreement for 2 out of the 3 that were there are in full agreement and wanted to move forward with this and keep the local option.
Got it. Yeah, I'm comfortable with maintaining local control as well. So thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Jeff, is this something we have to do every year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So if conditions change over the next year, so we can always go back and revisit. But like I said, the Board of Health always has that standing protocol that if we do ever hear of anything in town, that they immediately will convene and go through it. My guess is, like we did with COVID, we would also do that in conjunction with your board as well.
I think it's probably always helpful to remind folks, if you're talking about mosquitoes, any kind of standing water, does create a habitat for them. And certainly, mosquitoes can, carry diseases, but generally there's not we should not panic too much about triple E. It is rare, and certainly in the event that we did hear news about triple E within Swampscott or in Essex County, we would certainly get the word out to residents and make sure that we all take extra precautions.
Okay, Jeff, you keep saying you're requesting a certified vote. I mean, you just want us to vote on it, right? That's a certified vote.
Correct, just so I can get it back in time so we can cover ourselves.
Got it. You don't need signatures or anything. Okay. I'd entertain a motion to opt out of Mass General Law, Chapter 252, aerial spraying, ground spraying by the State Reclamation Mosquito Control Board.
So moved.
I have a second. You second that, Mary Ellen?
Sure, yes.
Okay. Peter
Hey,
Spelios.
hey.
Oh,
Hey,
discussion.
Neil, I'm sorry. I think Jeff mentioned an opportunity for public comment, so I think it's probably prudent just to see if anybody in the public that's here wants to comment on that so that we can check.
No,
that off
thanks for the
Jeff's list.
reminder. Yep. If there's anyone in attendance on Zoom or by email to me and Duffy at swampscottma.gov who wants to comment on this item, I think that Steve Rosenberg, your hand is still up. I'm assuming that you do not want to comment on the mosquito control board. But if anyone else in attendance, I do not see any hands raised. Thanks for that, Peter. So with that, Peter Spelios,
Aye.
Katie Phelan,
Aye.
David Grishman,
Aye.
Mary Ellen Fletcher,
Aye.
and I am also an aye. All right, thanks, Jeff.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is Heidi Whear, and I think Bob Powell is an attendee too, that he should be promoted. They're here to talk to us about a restructuring of Swampscott for All Ages, and it sounds like maybe Heidi may want to provide a bit of an update on things happening at the senior center as well. David and Peter may recall, and for Katie and Mary Ellen, Heidi will go into more details, but the Swampscott for All Ages Committee was quite a large committee when it was first established. I think because it was sort of doors open to everybody. So it's been a bit, they wanted to restructure it and have it be a more contained group, and also provide the ability to have a quorum and to be more effective. So Heidi and Bob had been working with staff at Town Hall over the past months to figure out the best way to do this. And that was delayed a bit, but now they're back in front of us to try to get this moving forward so the Swampscott for All Ages can continue doing all the great work that they've been doing for the last couple of years. So with that, I think I'll turn it over to you, Heidi.
Thank you, Neil. Good evening, everyone. For just a little bit of a briefing on what's going on over at the senior center, we have a men's club group meeting tomorrow with I think featuring some football players, and we have ice cream social, beach party in July down at Fisherman's Beach. We'll hopefully put a tent up and have a cookout or something down there. Details to follow. Lots of tea parties, baseball games, lots of games happening, and all kinds of social group and support groups also happening at the senior center, trying to reach out and work with folks that are isolated. The other piece that we're working on is a resource guide that will be mailed to every home in the town of Swampscott that will connect folks with the various resources in housing, community development, what else? Transportation, communication, those kinds of things. And so those will fall in line with this Swampscott for All Ages domains that we'll talk about in a second. And the final piece there is we will also be launching a new website that will combine efforts for the senior center as well as Swampscott for All Ages. So we're pretty excited about what's happening over the senior center right now. And of course, looking into a grant for an electric van, right, Sean? So there you go.
Cleaner and
I
greener.
think, right. So I think what we wanted to just share with you tonight was a little bit of background that we started in 2018 with a wonderful committee looking at putting together a needs assessment. And we hired UMass Boston to do that needs assessment. And when we presented the data from that assessment, we opened up to a committee of anybody who wanted to be on the committee. And at the debut of the needs assessment, when we had Dr. Chen come out and speak with us, we had 64 members on the committee, which is a very big committee, very exciting. Anyway, what happened was 32 of those members got sworn in, and then it started in the midst of COVID, and the rest of the folks didn't get sworn in, but we end up right now with a working list of 50 people who are on the rolling list that we send out every month. About 24 of those members are active right now, and about 8 attend regular meetings. And so with that, we don't have a quorum because we don't really know who's on the committee. It's gotten very muddy. And so we've talked about it for a long time, and Bob Powell has come up with a plan on how we can recreate this committee. And so I think right now I'm going to do is turn it over to Bob and see if you want to fill in what your plan is.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Heidi, and thanks everyone. So in essence, what we want to do is create a committee that's smaller in number. 13 is our target. 2 of those members would be ex officio, Heidi and Marzi. Marzi has been a longstanding member of the committee, and that would leave 8 folks to be appointed to the committee by the select board. Of those folks, each of them would become responsible for a specific domain that's within the age-friendly committee, which would be open spaces and buildings, transportation, respect and inclusion, housing, communications, civic participation, health and community and social participation. And by reducing the number to 13, we would also mimic what goes on with other advisory committees. When they're originally appointed, there'd be rolling terms. So maybe 4 of the members would have a 1-year term when they're first appointed, 4 would have 2-year terms, and 3 would have 3-year terms, and they could serve successive terms. The hope here is that by having a smaller committee, we'd be able to have quorums, keep meeting minutes, and also keep in line with what we had originally intended, which would be to have chairs of these various domains, each of whom would then create subcommittees to help them implement the action plan that we've created and submitted to ARP. So right now, that action plan, we completed year 1 of the action plan, and we're now in year 2 of the action plan. And this change, terminating the old committee and creating a successor committee, would allow us to move forward with years 2 through 5 plans. So that's the gist of it, the short version.
Anyone have any questions?
Nope.
No.
You know,
Okay.
I have one question. Bob, on your committee meetings, did you say the average of people that show up for your meetings are 8 or 9?
Yeah, that's what Heidi said. Yeah, where our attendance has dwindled in large part because of COVID, and maybe other reasons. We've had a number of people who have also attended their resignations from the committee too along the way.
I'm just wondering if possibly you should go down to a committee of 7 or 9 versus 13, if your average has been 8 or 9.
I think we went to the larger committee because we were looking at the 8 different domains and hoping that one person would represent each of the domains, which would take us to 8. And then you have a chair and Marzi and myself.
Yeah. So our intent, Mary Ellen, was to have the 2 ex officio. That brings us down to 11. 2 co-chairs. That brings us down to 9. So, and that would leave sort of 8 chairs of the various domains. So that's why we picked 13.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have a problem. I mean, when we first launched this committee, and as Heidi mentioned, we didn't turn away anyone. There was a lot of enthusiasm for this. So I think if we reopen the applications for this committee, we'll get more than 13, and I don't anticipate any problems getting 13 at a meeting going forward.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, any more comments or questions? So,
Thank you.
yeah, if not, then I guess I would entertain a motion to re-establish the Swampscott for All Ages Committee to a membership number of 13, including 2 ex officio members, which will be, why don't I keep it generic, will be staff person from the senior center, as well as a staff member from town hall, community development and planning department. Does that make sense? And then 13 members on staggered 3-year terms. Did I miss anything, Peter? You're probably picking up something that I left out.
I think you mean 11 members.
11 members
staggered
plus
terms.
2 ex officio, excuse me, yeah. So do we have, do I have a motion as
So
amended?
moved.
Is there
So
a
moved
second?
as amended.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Katie Phelan,
Yay.
David Grishman,
Aye.
Mary Ellen Fletcher,
Aye.
Peter Spelios,
Aye.
and I'm also an aye. So I suppose soon we'll be having in front of us some members to appoint to this committee, I hope very soon. So you can continue your work.
Yes, great. Thank you very much.
So can I-
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Peter, you have a
Thank you.
question?
Yeah, Sean, this will be publicized as we do other appointments, and again, I just want to make sure that we have that system still going here and make sure that gets publicized for 30 days. So
Certainly will, Peter. You know, this is an important committee, and I'll work closely with Heidi and with Diane and Bob to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to put their hat in the ring.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Heidi.
Thanks, Heidi. Thanks, Bob.
Bye.
All right. Next is a review and possible vote on the earth removal permit for the new elementary school at the Stanley School site. I think we have a lot of attendees who we may want to promote. And if people could, if the folks on ERAC could maybe change their name to ERAC so Diane can promote you, but there's John Picarillo, Tony is here, I think, and then we also have some folks from the design team, Mike Carroll. I think David Harris is here. So if people can make their name apparent so that we can promote you for this conversation. And with that, if it is okay with the board, I may, I agree, Peter, we closed the public hearing. Before I do that, so people know, we had a public hearing on this permit at our meeting last week. I think the public hearing portion lasted approximately 2 hours, where we heard comment from residents in person as well as on Zoom. The board had a conversation after we closed the public hearing where we made some recommendations and suggestions to improve the permit. Those revisions have been made, including language, updating the claims reporting process, increasing the radius for the pre-blast survey from 300 feet to 500 feet, and adding language that allows residents outside of 500 feet to request a pre-blast survey. That's increased where the original permit was just 300 feet. There's language about the street sweeping requirements that is now updated to specify that the DPW director and town administrator are the ones to determine when such cleaning is necessary. There's language about a mandatory meeting that has been added with the blasting contractor, both before blasting begins as well as 30 days after blasting starts to hear concerns of the neighbors. The PPV has been updated from to 2.0 after a long discussion about that standard, which we may get into tonight again. Blasting hours were revised from 9 to 4 to changed from that to 9 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And language was added to specify a warning system and notification as part of the pre-blast community meeting after feedback from residents. I think that covers the list of the major changes that were made. And with that, I think before we enter into a conversation, I may welcome, again, the public hearing is closed, but welcome any additional public comment from attendees. I think Steve Rosenberg was raising his hand. So Steve, if you want to raise your hand again, we can promote you if you do have something to say about this. And if there are other people in attendance who feel they have something to comment about before we discuss further, please raise your hands.
I don't see any hands.
No, I don't.
Oh, here
Okay.
we go.
Wait a minute. No. Now it's down.
Is he down now?
Oh, here it is. Steve Rosenberg. I did receive an email too. I guess this is to Ethan that somebody sent me an email saying that the Facebook stream doesn't seem to be working. I don't know what can be done about that, but okay,
It looks to be fine on my end. I'll do some checking to make sure.
okay, maybe that may be old too. If we can promote Steve Rosenberg, Diane.
Okay.
Hi. Everybody hear me?
Yep.
Hi,
Yep, how you doing?
I'm Steve Rosenberg. I live at 60 Lewis Road, Swampscott, about 650 feet from the Stanley School Woods. I spoke at the last week's select board meeting. And at that meeting, I brought up a number of issues, including communication between the town and its residents. Last week, I mentioned that I had learned about the town's plans to tear down the school and blast away the property this summer. I also mentioned to your board that I was in the dark about the plans since the ERAC permit draft had not been posted on the town's website. Here we are a week later, and while I asked for it to be posted a week ago, as we could see it, it's still not there. And I just have to ask, why? Why did that happen? We had a really good conversation last week about transparency. It's still not there. Thank God a selectman emailed me last night. I had a chance to look at it. I actually emailed the entire select board after the meeting last week. I don't know if all your emails are working. I did hear from 3, but I did not hear from 2. Are all your emails working?
Well, mine wasn't, but you did hear from me.
Everybody's email working?
Yeah,
Mr. Rosenberg, people's emails work, but we, because of open meeting law considerations and considering this was an active open meeting, when we saw other members responding, we can't respond because we create open meeting law issues. So that's unfortunate. Outside of public meetings, we are limited. So you copied us on everything, and we all saw that multiple members responded to you. And frankly, if more of us had responded, frankly, 3 of us responding probably created a problem in and of itself. So it's an unfortunate reality of the state. It's a good reality to have the open meeting law, but it also prevents us from, at times, about things that are right and before us, from having any kind of vibrant conversations with people because of that concern. So, but I'm very glad that 3 of my colleagues did the dialogue.
Thank you for that answer. So here we are a week later. I asked for it to be posted and it's still not there. A lot of us are still in the dark about what will be blown up, how it'll be blown up, what will be carted away, how much of this will impact us. I know that you've already reached a conclusion, but I feel like as a resident, I want to put this on the record because I've lived here a very long time and I'm very passionate about this area and this neighborhood, and it goes way beyond a school, okay? So I just don't know how you can vote on a draft tonight of a permit that very few people have seen, that's not on your website, that would begin a $100 million project, which is really the largest spending project in the history of the town, without letting residents know what you're proposing and what you're planning. We're still in the dark about what it is. That's why I propose to you to postpone this vote so the public has time to read and properly respond. There's no point in rushing this through. It's gonna work. No one's against building the school. We're all on the same team. We just wanna make it work. The town needs to build trust and relationships with the neighborhood, since it is this same neighborhood that will determine how to best live with the issues that this school will bring. Not just the 2 years of demolition and construction, but in the coming decades. A group of 20 neighbors met with a member of the select board Sunday night at the school. I would recommend that we meet again. I would recommend you hold off. We stand in the cold and we talk about what's going to happen. And we see each other, not on Zoom, but face to face. So we can discuss this permit and project further and how we can collaborate as partners moving forward. I'd be happy to arrange the meeting. So objectively, at this point, we still have a communication problem. I believe that the town and you as elected officials need to view the neighbors as partners in this project. We are homeowners, we're taxpayers, and way beyond that, we care very, very deeply about the site, the woods, and preserving the paths and vernal ponds and whatever history we can. That's why we need to have a fully transparent process. And to do this, all of the residents in this town, not just this neighborhood, need your help, the town of Swampscott. I'm told that the town has an annual budget of about 70 million. Is that about right? So it has a viable website that is a primary source for documents, postings, and news for your board, your town departments and committees. I assume someone maintains this website and updates it. I ask you to immediately start posting important information on this website, especially about this project that's moving forward. It should include all aspects of this project, such as a master schedule and timeline, a daily update of the daily blasting schedule. It would include start dates, descriptions of all demolition and construction projects slated to take place on the property. Do I need to wait for Mr. Spelios to come back?
He's listening. He's listening.
Okay. Remediation plans and how the lead and the toxins you may find will be removed, and who will oversee that? Who will oversee the overall work? A list of permits that have been obtained, street sweeping and washing schedule, truck departure schedules, such as, there's a big question, how many trucks will be leaving and arriving at the sites each day? And in total, we're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of truck trips. How the contractors plan to contain the dust from the demolition and construction. What's the plan to limit rodents from entering the neighborhoods? It should also include protocols on how to file a claim if a home is damaged from blasting. All of this information should be published on the town's website before any work begins. Again, we need to stress that the town be fully transparent about all aspects of this project. Here's my list of priorities that I've gathered from the group of residents. Pre-blast surveys. The residents would like to have pre-blast surveys of all homes within 1,000 to 1,500 feet of, of the school. I know you said 500. Listen to me. Having an independent company unrelated to the contractor conduct the pre-blast surveys and also review the claims.
Mr. Rosenberg, I don't want to, if you could try to move along, please, with
I'm
with
almost
your
going to.
comments on the permit. Thank you.
Blasting hours should be shortened. I believe you've already accommodated that. Community meetings with a designated paid town employee and contractor weekly during the project to receive feedback from neighbors, address concerns. I would also ask that you instruct the school building committee to mitigate their website to the Swampscott website, the official town website. You have a Google Doc website for the school building committee. I think that the town has to take liability for this project, okay? Be fully liable for this project, take full responsibility for this project and have its name on it, as opposed to Google Docs. I know you don't want me to talk anymore, so I won't. But I would love to meet with you. I know that the neighbors would, and I would like this to be a great project. We really want to work together. And we're free to meet.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rosenberg. I appreciate you coming tonight. I appreciate your comments and your participation and reaching out to us both last week and over email and organizing your neighbors on this. I think now I'm going to ask Tasia Vasilou is also raising her hand, and then I think after that we'll enter into discussion about the revised permit. Tasia, are you there?
I am, thank you. I'm Tasia Vasilou, and I live at 16 Lewis Road, down the street from Steve. So I just wanted to state, thank you, Steve, for such a comprehensive summary of those concerns. I'm not going to reiterate all of them, but I do just want to drill home that, I know that there's been communication with the neighbors within like the 300-foot radius. I believe most of that has been mandatory communication up until this point, certified letters and notifications of meetings and things. But what I really want to reiterate is that the neighborhood is so much bigger than just that 300-foot radius. Even if you could just include like the roads around the school, like a circle around that property, which would be like Nason, Kensington, Lewis, Laurel, Orchard Road, Orchard Circle. We're the neighbors who are going to be dealing with, most of the impact from the blasting, the noise, the dust, and the traffic, but it goes way beyond that too. I just want you guys to understand, it's so much more than just the construction. Our kids are the ones, I walk my kids to school every day, and now I'm going to be driving my daughter over to Blaney Street. She's going to be the one displaced in her last year of elementary school. Every day she comes home and talks to me about her teacher packing up her classroom in front of her. It's really sad for these kids. They're losing a huge part of their childhood, and they're going to be playing in a neighborhood that's fully under construction with trucks everywhere. They ride their bikes all over the place. There's so much more to it than just what appears to be on that permit. And communication with all of us is really critical, and keeping us in the loop and hearing what our needs are is very, very important. I used our fancy GIS mapping software that we have for the town, and I measured roughly where that 500-foot radius is that you're considering expanding to, and that is great that you're open to expanding and including more homes within that radius, but 500 feet really doesn't include many more homes. My recommendation would be to reiterate what Steve said, and anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 feet. There's so much ledge in this area the houses, especially, you know, up past the Ewing Woods and up towards like Pleasant Street in the middle school, that's all ledge over there. So we're the ones who are going to be really at risk of being on those fault lines and obtaining the damage. So, you know, expanding that option beyond 500 feet really doesn't include that many more neighbors when you look at it. So I just would like to request that. And that's, you know, pretty much, you know, what I have right now. Steve summed it up very well. So thank you for listening and giving me the time.
Okay, thanks. To see it, and I'll get your full name correct one of these days. I'm sorry.
worries.
I appreciate your comments and Steve's comments. I think we all agree that communication from the town and from the project team is vital. I think that I don't disagree that we need more information on our website, and the project needs a better website, you know, with more information and easier ways to find it. And I think I have faith that improvements will be made there, and that'll start to happen. The earth removal permit is one step for this process, and you know, it's just allowing that part of the process to start, but that doesn't mean communication ends or there isn't an ability to have more meetings with us or talk to us. But I think that what is also vital, I think, and they're here tonight, is that it's really communication with the project team and the contractors, because they're the ones who are doing the work and they're the ones who are going to be able to respond. So I think that ensuring that communication, which I think we've done with some of the changes, some of the comments made were actually, it was as if you were reading from the list of the changes that I had just read that we had implemented. So I think that we have, you know, we're going to talk about it right now, but I do think we have come up with some reasonable accommodations that help move the project forward, but also do so in a careful and thoughtful way for the neighborhood. That's, you know, while understanding that this is a major disruption to your neighborhood and to that part of the community. So I completely understand that. I don't know if the select board, I'm sure you've all had a chance, I mean, certainly can respond to any of this, but also I think you've probably had a chance to review the revised permit. I don't know if folks had specific questions you wanted to talk to, if you wanted sort of an overview. I think I would recommend that maybe we jump in on specific questions, but happy to hear from the rest of you.
You mean questions from the board?
Yeah, on the permit, it's on the revision of the permit.
I don't have a question on the you know, we had a conversation about a revision. I don't have questions on it. I have comments. Do you want me to wait for everybody to say their questions?
Questions or comments?
Okay. So what I did after the last meeting was I did a little bit of research, and I did have a conversation with Mr. Mike Carroll. He's from Hill International, and I have to tell you, it was really reassuring to talk to him and to know that he was going to be responsible for the project as, you know, I guess I could go as far as saying as the middleman. Hill will be taking over so that they will have full responsibility of what's going on. And Mike told me that they would have somebody at the site every day. He's the executive manager of it, or, you know, Mike, if I'm using the wrong terms, I'm sorry. I just I don't have those notes I wrote down with you, but he's the guy on the whole project. And he was kind enough to even give me his phone number, and he reassured me on a number of things. He also expressed that they were in the middle of a project at Braintree Middle School, and he sent me videos of that. And then I also called Braintree Middle School, and spoke to the administrative office down there to ask them what their experience was with the project. And their experience right now, they're having a great experience. Blasting is going on while they're having MCATs. The only issue that they were having is they had to spend a little bit more time following truck traffic. I also spoke with Suzanne Wright about issues that I heard while I was campaigning and issues I've heard from neighbors about communication. And I've forwarded those suggestions to Suzanne Wright, and she also recommended that the select board make a comment in our meetings, maybe a 2-minute update on what's happening with the school, on the new school. Maybe that would help with communication. But the bottom line, what I really thought about as I walked around, I walked around Lewis, I walked around Kensington, I drove up and down Nason, and the foundations over there are fieldstone foundations. And with fieldstone foundations, there are issues about cracking, or I should say they're a little bit more vulnerable. So I looked at a bigger map, and I do think that we should consider, and I would like to recommend that we move it out so that any homes within 1,500 feet, if they want a survey done of their home to protect them, I think that they should have that opportunity, so that if something should go on, if there should be damage, they have the opportunity to apply for insurance for that damage.
Mary Ellen, you muted yourself. Sorry, you just were saying after 1,500 foot radius.
Okay, after the 1,500 foot radius, I think it would be a good idea to have 1,500 foot radius because of the type of foundations they have out there. And I'm saying only if people want, if residents want to have an audit of their house in the event something should happen. And the reason I'm coming to this decision is based on what happens up at the quarry with people at 1,000 to 2,000 feet. The other concern I had is Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. You know, I'm a hardworking individual, and if I had a construction site across the street from me, 6 days a week, including blasting, even though the blasting is only Monday through Friday, what does that do to people emotionally and psychologically? I mean, it just seems like it's too much. So I would recommend taking Saturdays off of that, and also moving it to 8 a.m. So those are the things that really concerned me. The 2.0 blasting, I'm actually in favor of that, whereas I wasn't in the beginning, but after research, I'm in favor of that. I think once the document is really communicated to everyone in the neighborhood, I think they're going to feel very comfortable. There is a section in there for rodent control. There's the majority of things that Mr. Rosenberg brought up. I think once he reads the full document, I think he's going to feel a little bit more comfortable. If he gets a chance to speak with Mr. Carroll, Mike Carroll, I think he's going to feel really comfortable. And I think there's a way for us to make this a little bit more palatable for that community, for that section, that neighborhood. So that is my opinion. It's the distance, the 1,500 feet, and the amount of days. 6 days. And I'm finished with my comment.
Well, thanks, Mary Ellen. Anyone else?
So I'll go ahead, Neil. So I got to say, it's such an unforced error that the permit's not posted online. And it's an unforced error in the fact that we asked for it to be posted online and it didn't get posted online. But more important than that, it undermines what literally has been hundreds of hours of meetings that volunteers and professional staff have been doing for the last 2 years. Literally hundreds of hours, no exaggeration, right? And it allows residents to feel as though there isn't transparency. And, you know, I appreciate that not every resident knows about every meeting. Sia attends a lot of school building committee meetings. She attends a lot of select board meetings. She seem to know where things are and how they're happening. So that gives me encouragement that that information is out there if you want it. But not posting the permit is just an unforced error, and it's got to stop, Sean. Just candidly, we don't need to get into a discussion about that tonight. It's got to stop. We just got to be able to put that information out there. It is literally the most robust earth removal permit that we will ever pass in the town of Swampscott. I'm going to say it again. It is the most robust earth removal permit that we will ever pass in the town of Swampscott to date. But yet we didn't put it on the website, right? And that's unfortunate, because it gives credence to a narrative that a process that Earth Removal Committee deserves better, because they've spent hours in public meetings talking about this permit. I'm less concerned about the hours we're spending, but they spent hours. And before that, this was talked about in hours and hours and hours of school building committees, right? So this is not new information. It may be new to some, but we've got to do better in getting that out. I appreciate concerns about blasting, but I also think the state regulation is 2.0, and it's also 250 feet for the radius. And the people that put together that regulation didn't put it together for quarries. It was put together for blasting like this. And I trust that the regulators and this has been out there for years, the professionals, the regulators know what they were doing when they created this radius. And so while I appreciate that we have bedrock in our community and we have lots of ledge in our community, that doesn't make us unique. And I don't know that it merits a sevenfold increase in upwards of sevenfold increase in radius that we should be doing here. What makes it unique is that it's in our backyards, right? And that does make it unique. It's Swampscott, and so it's our backyard. But the conditions, I don't think, is what makes it unique. It's just because it's something we all have to deal with, and we all are going to get stuck in the traffic. I do appreciate what TC has said about the sadness of her kids watching schools get packed up, and the people in Moshan had that same sadness too at one point. And when the high school was being built, they had to drive behind slow dump trucks and deal with blasting too. And in a tight community like this, it's inevitable. We can't sneeze in this town without our neighbor saying "God bless you" from the next door window, right? And so that is a reality here. It doesn't mean that we can't do things. As a matter of fact, I think to Mary Ellen's point, and I really appreciate, Mary Ellen, the homework that you did and the diligence that you did, because there's a lot of substance behind this permit. Again, I'm going to say this permit, I said it last week, this permit is more pages than the last 4 earth removal permits for non-quarry operations put together in length. It's crazy. I mean, to ERAC's credit, they have done a really robust job here. I am supportive of again, the changes to increase the requirement to 300 feet, and then to allow people, I think it currently says up to 500 feet. I'd be willing to go a little bit higher to 600 feet or something, but I think at some point it becomes just a little bit too much out there. Anybody can get a survey if they want the survey done, that's for sure. Again, I appreciate the concern about fieldstone. I have a foundation that is crumbling myself, and but again, these regulations, this is not new. This is behavior that happens this is construction activities that happen in a lot of communities just like Swampscott. And so I would be open to that. The hours of operation, again, if you look granularly at the hours of operation, the blasting are limited. The 7 to 6 days a week is not what the blasting is, and that's really what's before us in terms of an earth removal permit. The other hours of operation are standard. Private contractors all the time, all across Swampscott, can operate with those hours, and on Saturdays, which is reasonable. So I don't support further restrictions of the hours, because I think the blasting restriction on hours is already more intense, and I appreciate the change on that. So I think that is all I have to say. And I also, sorry, one more thing. I do appreciate, I know David Grishman also reached out to neighbors, and I don't think any of us knew that Mary Ellen was meeting with neighbors, but I don't believe Mr. Rosenberg got back to Mr. Grishman. And it's tough in between meetings to do these meetings. Again, open meeting law presents a quandary. We spend a lot of hours doing these things, and we can always do more, undoubtedly. But I would be remiss if I didn't point out this school building committee quite literally did outreach like no other committee I've ever seen in my 20 years in Swampscott. The school building committee chair quite literally hand delivers to 150 homes the monthly update, right, to make sure everybody's getting it. And that's like volunteer. And so the effort's there. Again, I think unforced error by us by not posting the permit, but it shouldn't take away from the significance of the permit, because it really is very significant, and it's there to protect the neighbors, and I'm comfortable that that protection is there as drafted.
David and Katie, have any questions or comments you want to add to the conversation?
Yeah, I just want to piggyback a little bit on what Peter said, which is the edited language, the revised language of the permit does expand that radius so that folks within 300 to 500 feet will be offered the opportunity for pre-blast surveys. And then it does state for properties outside the 500-foot radius, residents may request inclusion in a pre-blast survey. So just because you're outside of that 500-foot radius, it's my understanding, doesn't mean you're precluded from obtaining a survey. So I just want to make that that observation. And then additionally, I would just also like to reiterate, it's not for a lack of wanting to reply to folks outside of open meeting. We just have to be very careful about that. And so yes, my email works. And while I would have loved to all participate in a conversation over the email, we are also stuck between a rock and a hard place of that restriction. So thanks.
Yeah, I'll just mention just on that too. I mean, Peter said it, but when people email the select board as a whole, often one of us will reply all, and in my experience, it is a tricky thing to try to navigate. But unless there's something that you need to add, or so it really is sort of hard to then have that be a multiple party conversation. So, and usually someone responds and sort of takes the lead and tries to provide a response. So that is not unusual, and it is a bit awkward, and but it's certainly not, I know in this case, because people aren't interested or wanting to communicate with people through email or otherwise. David, I don't know if you want to add to any.
Yeah, just really briefly, Neil. I feel comfortable with the with the changes that we made during our last meeting. Actually seeing them in the permit, gives me a great deal of confidence that we did have a 2-hour dialogue publicly with the neighbors. We did hear their concerns. We did make substantive changes to the permit. And I mean, let's be honest. I have friends. All of us do on Lewis Road, on Nason, in that areas. We do not want our neighbors' properties to be damaged. We want them to be heard. I've talked to a number of folks. There are softball coaches, our baseball coaches, volunteers within our community. So we certainly care and respect our neighbors. We have a sign in Swampscott, "Love thy neighbor," and I think that I think that this permit, to Peter's point, is very, very comprehensive, and I think I'm comfortable with the changes that we made at our last meeting, and I'm ready to take a vote.
I have a quick question. So if somebody lives, just say somebody lives 1,000 feet away, and they want what is it called? Is it called an audit? What is the actual term for it?
Pre-blast survey.
Pre-blast survey. They just call and they would just call and request a pre-blast survey. And do they have to pay for that, or is that is it the same as somebody who lives?
We'll have to look at that on a case-by-case basis, but we included language in the permit that anybody outside a 500-foot radius may request for inclusion in a pre-blast survey. Obviously, these pre-blast surveys can be expensive, and we certainly have to manage a project consistent with an overall budget, but we want to be as supportive as possible. And we certainly, we've increased this significantly from that 300 foot to 500 feet. And if there are neighbors within a proximity that really seems like it may be impacted, we will certainly review that and include individuals on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, that just seems to be a little bit too, I wish that was a little bit more definite. It's too objective to me. I mean, my number one goal is just to, this is on a huge piece of stone, and I'm having a problem with people owning a home, 800, 900, 1,500 feet from, and that are on the same fault line that could get damaged. That's my concern.
My concern as well, Mary Ellen, and in fact, it's been my concern with every one of the projects that we've had in town. And, I spoke with one of the abutters to the Greenwood School this week. In fact, I met with an individual that sent several emails and complained about the blasting and some of the impacts from that site. And I asked them, what was your biggest concern? It was the fear and the anxiety over the blasting. But when it happened, they did not have as much of those concerns. It actually, I think everybody with a Fieldstone foundation in Swampscott, and most everybody has an older home. I think everybody is anxious. And I asked this person, what would you have liked to have had that you didn't have? And their answer was, I wish I had a phone number of somebody I could call that would answer it every day, that I could express some concerns about the project. And from my perspective, when we looked at the pre-blast survey section, we added not just what the select board had requested to have a community meeting, but we added an on-site meeting for neighbors to meet with the contractors and the blasting company and really get a face-to-face meeting so that they can talk to the people that are going to be working on that site and make sure that we have relationships there. We certainly want to protect that neighborhood. We want to help our residents, but we've got to manage a project that is getting more and more complicated by the day. And as a town, ultimately, I have that responsibility, and I have to try to be fair about this. Certainly, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that every neighbor feels as though we're going to listen and support the relationships that are going to be, integral to having a successful project. But, we've got to manage a complicated project. And I think the changes we have made in this permit, as Peter has mentioned, other board members, are as extensive as any we've ever addressed. And that we've done this because we are the town and we are advancing this project. We want to set a gold standard for future earth removal projects that really does say, hey, our residents do matter. And we are going to be as careful as possible as we move forward with a major new school.
Can I just chime in for a second here, Sean? I appreciate it. Mary Ellen, I really appreciate the comments you're making here. A couple of things. The earth removal process isn't triggered whenever there's blasting. The earth removal process and the earth removal permit processes having to do with a quantity of materials being removed from a site. And so there are projects across town today where they'll be blasting for a foundation, or there'll be something going on that is completely not regulated by the earth removal process here in Swampscott. Instead, it's completely regulated by state regulation. The fire department gets involved, et cetera, et cetera. And so that happens all across Swampscott all the time. I mean, that is just a fact of life here in Swampscott. The earth removal process is triggered by volume of fill, right? The bigger projects, make sure we're capturing the bigger projects. But that being said, I appreciate Mary Ellen's points. So I guess what I would like to suggest is that Mike Carroll has previously said, look, it's to our benefit to be doing pre-blast surveys because we don't want, it's to the blasters' benefit to do it because they're not looking for claims and to have faulty claims, right? And so they like them because they want to be able to say, see, that was there, type of thing. So I don't think there's a fear about doing pre-blast surveys. It's not about the money of doing pre-blast surveys. But I do think, again, we've got to be careful about, every single earth removal permit from now on Are we going to say that we're going to go 1,500 feet? We're going to do 1,000 feet for every single homeowner that does a project and has something that's going on here? I mean, I just worry that, what precedent are we setting? That being said, I think it's worthwhile to give notice to people, right? And so I guess I would ask that we, a slight variation on Mary Ellen's concerns, but to make sure people know about the availability of this, is to be able to say, look, if you're within 300 feet, you're getting the statutory notice, the regulatory notice, certified mail. And then beyond 300 feet, if you're 300 to 500 feet, I think the permit says that you are entitled to one if you request one. And then beyond 500 feet, it's if you, excuse me, if you want one, then on a case-by-case basis. I am pretty confident that it's in the interest of the team to be as thoughtful in their response in that, but I do want every one of those people in those radiuses to everyone get a letter. So the certified mails for the first 300, but then from 3 to 500 and 5 to 1,000 is what I would say, not 1,500, but 5 to 1,000. Make sure that at least everybody gets a letter that says that it's available for them to request. And again, depending on which radius they're in, it's automatic or it's on a case-by-case basis. So at least people know it. And then, that way, we'll see how this works as well. But I do think it's very important that we don't just create this radius and this opportunity and do it for the 30 people that are listening to us tonight. But instead, let's make sure that the 30 residences that want them are the ones that hear about this directly from the town, which is the project team at this point. So that would be my suggestion as a modification, a further modification from what's already drafted in the permit.
So Peter, I appreciate that, but it still brings me back to people that do live on the fault line that are over 500 feet, and that I would really like to see something with teeth that it's just not willy-nilly. Like somebody has the opportunity. There's going to be a lot of people that don't want you to come in and look in their house. They don't want to have a pre-blast survey, and they're going to be fine. But there are going to be people who are like, well, I want somebody to come in here and video my foundation, just make sure I'm safe because I am on this piece of rock. And as it vibrates, I am at risk. This is a very, I'm not sure if I can use the word unique situation, but it is unique. I mean, it's a lot of earth removal in a small area. The blasting is going to affect multiple homes, and I would feel a lot better about this if somebody who lived, for example, like I'm good with 1,000 feet. If somebody lived at 950 feet, if they know that I can get my house audited, if I so choose, but not having that guarantee, to me, it makes me uncomfortable.
I appreciate that, and I think a little differently on that, which is I think us, expanding the radius from what the state requires, is significant. We're already doing that, and I just feel as though the next one that comes along may be a lot less blast, but the house may be, equally on fault lines. And again, we're saying fault lines as if I know what a fault line means for geology and where my house is fault line. I don't know that. But so it's not, I totally get what you're trying to protect, and it's important, Mary Ellen, but I also, it's a huge multiple of what the state regs actually require. And we have never even come close to doing that. And again, I get the concern, and a lot of the concern relates to the fact that everyone's experience in this town is the quarry.
Right.
Not residential blasting projects or projects in our neighborhoods. That happens. That happens. Nick Menino is doing that already in our neighborhoods, right? Menino Construction is doing that. It's the quarry. So all of our experiences is one based in understandable fear for a quarry, which is 1,000 times the weight and size of a blast. So when you talk to people that are 1,000 feet away from the quarry, they're dealing with reverberations on a size of a blast that is the equivalent of if you took every blast that the school's going to do and put it into one blast, if you will. So I hear you. I'm just coming out a little differently and saying, let's at least give them notice. I trust, I've had plenty of conversations with Mike Carroll as well. You did. He's a pretty serious dude. And he's not looking to shortchange things. And if he thinks it's worth doing and he looks at a house and says, you're right, this is a fieldstone house, this is in a tough place, I'm confident the team will make the right decision. But I think we've got to let the team, this is as professionally run and professional team as any project will ever do in Swampscott, frankly, because we have this professional OPM involved. So I'm with you. I'm just advocating that instead we just give them notice and give them a chance to request it and trust that Mike Carroll and the team will do the right thing based on individual circumstances.
I think Mike Carroll's here as an attendee. I think it may make sense. Maybe we have him comment.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
So I would agree with Peter. I mean, just so everybody understands, the state limit is 250 feet from the blast site. Going 350 feet from the property line, we're already almost doubling that in many locations, like the state regulation, just by going to 300. Now by going to 500, you're more than doubling it. And I think at 1500, I would be surprised if anybody even could tell when the blasting would happen, because we're not the quarry. This is a much smaller process, and I think that the recommendations that have been made is something that I would support.
Okay, thanks, Mike. I guess I'll just add my 2 cents. I feel like similarly. I mean, the 250 foot number is coming from the state. I think if the arbitrary numbers are 1,000 and 1,500 feet. I mean, 250 is what is recommended. And I agree. I mean, I think Katie said it last week, like, I'm not a blaster, nor am I a regulator of such operations, but there are professionals who do regulate these operations. They say 250. And I think it's important to reiterate once again that that's 250 from the blast site, and we're going 300 from the property line. So we're already, when you go from the property line, you're already adding sort of 20 to 50 feet there, and then you're adding 50 to the 250, and then we're going another 200 feet outside of that. This is outside of the regulation number that they're requiring of all projects. So we're sort of more than twice. And so I think it's more than reasonable to have that in our permit, as well as I am fine with the recommendation of making sure that we send out notice from 500 to 1,000 feet, of just letting people know that a pre-blast survey will be reviewed, on a case-by-case basis for them, and make sure they know that the opportunity is there, that they can submit that request. I'm comfortable with that, personally. Are there any other comments or questions on this, or any other parts of the permit, or any other language in the permit that anyone wanted to bring up?
So no, but I'll go ahead and make a motion if you're ready, Mr. Chairman.
Yep, I'm ready.
I'd make a motion to approve the revised permit, reflecting the red line changes, permit that were made and described by the chair earlier this evening, with the additional revisions that the permit made clear that residents between 300 and 500 feet be given a mailer to let them know that if they request a pre-demo survey, they will receive a pre-demo survey, and residents within in excess of 500 feet to 1,000 feet get a mailer that lets them know that there's the possibility of a pre-demo survey and how they can request one, and that will be determined on a case-by-case basis.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right. Katie Phelan.
So I vote yes. To pass, sorry. The
It's all right.
revised, as Peter revised, that's correct.
Yeah. Peter Spelios.
Aye.
Mary Ellen Fletcher.
My vote is no, without having better verbiage on the 500 to 1,000 to make sure people have clear opportunity to have a pre-blast survey. I'd like to vote yes, but unfortunately I have to vote no without having that.
Okay. David Grishman.
Yes.
And I am also a yes. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, thanks again to John Piccarello, Tony Vandewitt, Ted Smith and everybody on the ERAC committee for all your efforts. You guys did a lot of the elbow grease and gave us a recommendation. So just thank you. It's a really, really tough job you guys do. So thank you.
Thank you, ERAC.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, thanks.
This
And
job, they should, ERAC is tough. Select board's easy.
so as mentioned, the next item on our agenda, we won't be talking about tonight. There's a comment letter for Mass Housing on the eligibility of Atlantic Bayview residences at Foster Road and Archer Street. As David mentioned, if residents want to continue to send comments to Marzi Galaska at Town Hall in the Community Development Office, we can forward your comments on to Mass Housing, or you can send comments to, it's Mike Busby, right, David? At Mass Housing.
Michael Busby at Mass Housing,
Yeah,
and
okay.
an email to Marzi, please.
Okay, and we'll be taking that comment letter up likely on Monday, May 16th.
Where do residents find, is that on the website? Just if people look at the website, would they be able to see that?
The project itself?
No, not the project,
Yeah,
but
so-
sending a letter, sending a letter to Mr. Busby.
Peter, I don't know if,
we've just been advertising these, through the various community meetings that have been held on site. This was the process that was undertaken during the last attempt to develop this property in December, January. So there's already very robust communications that are happening, but with the neighbors on Foster Road and Archer.
I think the quickest way, Mary Ellen, is if they send it to Marzi, she's compiling all the comments and submitting them to Mass Housing.
Well, what I'm saying is if say my neighbor decides to look on the website to see what's in the news or what's going on, or just to get updated, is there a way for them to see oh, there's something going on over at Archer, it has to do with affordable housing, maybe let me send a letter to support my neighbors. I'm just saying
There's a projects page on the community development page on the left-hand side. As you look at the screen, there's a whole list of all the projects and all the applications
that
have come in.
I think what I'm doing, I'm recommending, should we put this under news, or there are people that would want to write a letter to Mr. Busby in support of that neighborhood.
So I think we can find a way to promote this on the town homepage and ensure that residents are able to send some comments into our community and economic development director.
That'd be great.
That's really what we want to direct comments to just ensure that we file a unified packet of comments.
Right.
And something like this could go out in the town newsletter, correct?
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You could have a whole town writing letters.
All right, so the last item on the agenda is town meeting warrant. There's some articles that we may want to recommend favorable action or indefinite postponement on that we didn't when we closed the warrant, as well as I think it'd be a good idea to have a discussion about each article and who may be speaking to what for town meeting, if it's necessary or required for us to speak to it. So I think that maybe the best thing to do is just to go through a page turn on this and discuss if you have any questions about any of the articles, but also how we will manage them at town meeting. Does that make sense?
Neil, do you want me to put it up on the screen?
Yes. Sorry. So The first is reports of town boards and committees. We don't need to speak to that nor vote on it. The bills of prior fiscal years, Sean and maybe Peter and even Mary Ellen, you can help me on this, but I don't think we typically say anything about that,
No,
right?
we don't. That's finance committee.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we'll answer questions, but certainly.
Okay. On the budget, I just don't know if people wanted to have a conversation about the budget. We've recommended favorable action on it. But if anyone wanted to ask any questions, Amy's here, or, again, I believe Finance Committee really handles that. I don't think that anyone on the select board typically gets up and comments unless they're on specific line items that we're better able to answer questions on, but I think that typically ends up going to the town administrator. Does everyone agree with that?
I think the finance committee usually handles it. Or you're saying if there's a serious question, then the town administrator handles it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to determine who would respond to questions on the budget, because the questions typically are
Right.
on specific line items, right? So it would
Right.
be either
Yep.
Finance Committee or one of us, or likely Sean.
Or Amy, yeah.
Yeah, or Amy, excuse me, thanks.
Likely me.
Amy.
Collective bargaining agreements, I just want to, hold on just a minute.
I apologize for the fast scroll. Everyone look away.
So I think this was, we didn't, we're reporting on this article because there wasn't an exact amount. I think that typically this will be mostly Sean who manages the response to this. Correct?
That's right.
Yes.
So we'll have a motion that will itemize the first year costs for each of the collective bargaining agreements that the board has ratified and that have been ratified by the various unions. And that will be spelled out in a motion.
Okay. And I don't think there's any reason for us to do anything other than to report on it at this point, right? Not to recommend favorable action. We'll just
Somebody's
do
going to
it.
have to move the motion. So somebody from the finance committee or the select board will have to make that motion.
And I think it's usually the Finance Committee.
The finance
Typically,
committee.
financial articles, but certainly, I think as these are contracts that are ratified by the select board, I think it might be helpful to have a select board member, speak to the importance of these contracts.
Okay.
So I think my suggestion, typically, Sean, we would actually demur to you speaking about it since you are the one negotiating them. So I think that after it's moved, I think you being recognized to speak on the contracts and to give a 2-minute, 3-minute synopsis is important.
Agreed.
Yep. Water and sewer transfers, I sent you all, which you may not have had time to see, that some information. I just had questions about this because of my involvement on the rate setting last year and just in the year before, knowing that when you transfer retained earnings, you're in some ways there are implications for the rate. So I just wanted to have a sense of what the assumptions were. So I forwarded that information along to you. I'm comfortable with the assumptions that have been made in terms of these retained earnings transfers. I just want to, one question for Sean is just that I do think there is, as summer goes on, no one wants another town meeting, but if there is a special town meeting in the fall, there is opportunity as the summer goes on, if some of our assumptions change, that we could potentially be setting rates, assuming that we may ask for a transfer of more retained earnings in the fall if needed, correct?
That's correct. I think, what we've presented is a prudent use of retained earnings that perhaps will help us just continue to stabilize our water and wastewater rates and continue our annual rate setting for August. If we get to August and assumptions have skewed to a point where we see a spike in the rates, we can then contemplate the use of additional retained earnings and think about a fall town meeting.
Okay. And I think again, with both of these articles, this would be Tim. Would be, sorry, the finance committee and yeah.
Yep, finance committee does both of those.
So I think, well, so for these, I mean, it's in the warrant that we'll report on it. Does it make sense for us to vote on 5 and 6 right now for favorable action, or does it matter at this point?
I think it always matters. And I think, as select citizens, folks are going to want to know what you think. And
So because they're putting together a PowerPoint for town meeting. So I don't know if others are comfortable, we could change our opinion that we recommend favorable action if anyone wants to make that motion, or Peter's saying no.
Well, I just, not that the ship has sailed per se, but the motion is going to be this amount on town meeting floor by the finance committee.
Okay.
And so I've never seen us, and I don't think there's a PowerPoint that would make us all of a sudden jump up and disagree with the finance committee. Now, if when we get to the rate setting opportunity in June and July, something happens that the rate setting is thrown off because of the way budgets have come in or revenue and whatnot, and we feel as though we need to use more retained earnings, we can always do that and then go to special town meeting for that. But I don't think there's anything that will happen on town meeting floor that precludes us from following FinCom's lead at the moment with favorable recommendations.
Okay.
I have a technical question. Are we even allowed to vote on anything if our agenda doesn't say possible vote?
It says possible action, new and old business, possible action, vote of the board, and then it's just all a list of items underneath.
Oh, so I'm looking here, review of 2022 annual town meeting warrant.
Yeah, but if you look at the heading of the agenda,
So
new and old business, and then it says possible action, vote of the board. So I think that's sort of,
okay.
I read that as all encompassing of everything that's listed there. Does that make sense?
All right.
But
Yeah,
no,
I'm just not sure. I remember seeing a select board meeting a few months ago, and it was brought up that because something wasn't on the agenda, you couldn't take a vote on it. So I just want a clarification on what can be voted on and what can't. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're okay there.
On that one, Mary Ellen, it was because the whole topic itself did not appear on the agenda.
Okay.
So
Good
if it should come up, I'm comfortable speaking to Article 5 and 6 should our opinion be asked for on that one. Infrastructure fund, we recommend favorable action. I don't expect that we'll have to speak to that. So that's Article 7, similarly with Article 8. And feel free to jump in and stop me or ask questions if you want. Similarly with Article 9. Article 10, the same thing. I think capital projects will report at town meeting. I think maybe Peter, you'll probably, if we're to report on that, you'll be the one. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Citizens petition articles. We actually recommended indefinite postponement. This was a misprint. The select board, we voted on this at our last meeting. So just to make that correction known here. I don't know that we technically really speak to these since they're citizens petitions. I'm not sure how that's been handled in the past, Peter. I mean, we'll speak to it after the petitioner, if asked.
Yeah, if it was relevant, right? I mean, so finance committee will speak on this because it has financial consideration, and then if others felt like they needed to speak on the next citizen petition, where the board, which is the one regarding the constitution of FinCom, where I think that does directly implicates the select board. It's actually seeking to give the select board greater authority over appointments of FinCom, and this board unanimously did not support that. It may be helpful for someone from our board to get up and say, hey, despite the fact that this is saying the select board should appoint people to FinCom, the select board doesn't think we should be appointing people to FinCom. I think is a helpful thing for town meeting to not just see, but to hear from a select board member.
Okay.
Neil, I believe someone from FinCom plans to also give comments on Article 13 from the Finance Committee standpoint.
Okay. I'm happy to give those comments, unless somebody else wants to. Okay.
So,
darn. Article 14, this will be, so Article 14 we need to discuss because you were sent some materials. And let me see. I don't think Angela is here. I think it would make, yeah, Angela's raising her hand. Diane, if you can promote Angela.
yeah, I can just, Neil, just so you know, I don't think this is something we're gonna be able to vote on. I mean, we have to look at the revised language, and I know Angela's gonna present it as a motion, so we can just report at town meeting, is my guess. I haven't looked at it at all, and I don't want to do it on the fly here.
Oh, okay.
But if it is what we thought it was, I don't, again, on town meeting floor, we can, chime in positively.
Okay, so do you want to just discuss before town meeting? We'll discuss the revised language because you haven't had a chance to look at it. Is that okay?
Yeah, if we can do that on Monday before our meeting, right before town meeting, and then if we let the town clerk know, the moderator know that he can put that up on the screen, what our recommendation is.
Okay. All right, I think
I anticipate it's favorable. I'm sorry to interrupt. I anticipate it's favorable. I just want to have a chance to go through the language.
Okay. So let's plan on doing that. Sorry, Angela. Well, we'll reach out on that offline. And then 15 is climate change action plan resolution. I will speak to that. Actually, maybe joined by some high school students who I met with today, as well as other people on the Climate Action Resilience Committee. So I'll take that one. And then Indigenous Peoples Day, I think we're recommending favorable action, and I would welcome volunteers to speak to that proclamation if anyone wants to be the spokesperson for why this is important. Anyone?
I'll do it.
If you're already up there, why don't you just take it?
I'm actually David, did you want to? If not, I didn't know if there's something you wanted to.
Katie had volunteered, I thought.
Yeah, I'm happy to write something up.
Nice.
Katie,
I love it.
Are you a town meeting member or non-town? Are you a town meeting member?
I am not a town meeting member.
That's a good question.
Because so we had this come up at the finance committee. We had a non-town meeting member who couldn't speak on an article. So I don't know.
Oh, well, I might be precluded from this conversation then.
Right.
It's the select board's warrant. This is, sorry.
With the indulgence of the moderator, any resident and town meeting, any resident can speak. So it may require Mike to do an extra step to let Katie speak, but I have no doubt that Katie can speak.
Okay.
Non-residents.
Okay. We just no, he was a resident of Swampscott. He just wasn't a town meeting member. And actually, I think the current chair even of finance committee fell into that loop a few years ago too. So that's why that's the only reason I'm bringing it up.
So Katie, I think you can speak to it if you're comfortable doing it. Then I'd say go for it. I think it'd be great to have you do it.
Love to do it.
Okay.
You know, the moderator's in attendance if you do want to ask that question, but you don't have to. I'm just doing it.
I think we're okay. We can figure it out. Okay. I think that's it. Does anyone have any other questions on that, or is there anything I left out? Please speak up. So awesome. So I think that before we move on to the consent agenda, just so we should plan on possibly caucuses start at 6, so we may want to have an executive session prior to town meeting as well. So just think about possibly like 5 o'clock. And then we will have at least a public meeting to approve the comment letter for mass housing. So I think about it as 5. Maybe it'll be 5:30. So I haven't done this without being virtual on the select board. Do we typically meet in the principal's office or in a classroom? Do we do a classroom for our meeting before town meeting?
Yeah, we can do like the library. So Diane, you'll just coordinate. We'll coordinate. I'm happy to help offline.
We've already drafted an agenda for the select board on Monday to meet at the library, and Diane's already looking to coordinate that. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So that should include just general discussion and potential votes on warrant articles, Sean, and the Foster Road 40B project comment letter.
Yep.
And I hope that David has gotten me comments on that, and so the letter now sits with me. So I'm sorry that we didn't get it for tonight. I'm hoping to be able to get it to people maybe by end of business tomorrow, if not definitely on Friday. So you'll have that comment letter well in advance of Monday.
That's great. Thanks again to both of you for doing that. I know it was kind of quick turnaround. Mike McClung, you're here. Are you here to contribute positively to our conversation? Can you unmute Mike McClung?
There we go.
I think
Sorry.
you can.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to point out that the caucuses are noticed for 6:45.
Oh. Okay, thanks. So maybe not 5 o'clock, or else we'll all be sitting around the high school, but I'll keep you posted on that.
I just ask to the moderator, since he's here, so what is the story? A non-town meeting member who's on the select board, is it true she has to wear a funny hat when she speaks at town meeting?
Definitely a funny hat.
Wait a minute. I'm a resident. I'm just not you said a non-resident. I'm a resident. I'm just not
A resident. I'm more focused on the funny hat at the moment.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm just ignoring the funny hat comment.
So
Mike,
Ms. Phelan can absolutely speak at town meeting. She's not empowered to make a motion. So I'll connect with Neil and we'll discuss who's going to be making the motion on the final 2 articles.
Okay. Yeah, and it's the last one. Maybe David will hang out up there and make the motion. Makes sense.
Yep.
All right. So I think that's all we need to talk about for town meeting. And so the next is approval of the consent agenda. Consent agenda is designed to expedite the handling of routine and miscellaneous business of the board. We may adopt the entire consent agenda with one motion or at the request of any board member. Any items may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda for discussion. Consent agenda items tonight are the minutes from our May 4th meeting, appointment of Tara Gallagher to the tree committee for a 3-year term, expiring on June 30th, 2025. Any questions or comments on the consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have a second. Mary Ellen Fletcher,
Yes.
Katie
Aye.
Phelan,
Aye.
Peter Spelios,
Aye.
David Grishman,
Aye.
and I am an aye. All right. Select board time. Does anyone have anything?
I just,
I'm going to have off, oh, go ahead, Dave.
go ahead, Marilyn.
I'm gonna have office hours at 9 a.m. at the gazebo on Saturday. And that's all I have for office hours for today. All I have for comment for today.
Awesome.
No, I just want to applaud the work of Swampscott Rec and Danielle Strauss and her team have really been putting together a great list of events this summer. It was pretty extensive and expansive, and it really warms my heart to see so many positive things happening in town. And I really look forward to attending these events, participating and volunteering as well. So I'm incredibly excited, and I look forward to this summer.
Echo David's comments, because I was very excited to see the events roll out this week for the summer. I'm sure there'll be even more added. They're just such a value add to our community, and I'm really excited, to take the kids and to be part of, the things that are happening about town. And I hope to see a lot more faces doing the same thing.
That's great. Thanks. I just have a couple minor things. One, just to select board members, just to let you know, I'm going to send out a list of committees for our liaison appointments. So I'll send out that information to you all through email. You can select, what some of your preferences are. And then I think at one of our meetings after town meeting, everything's happening after town meeting, by the way, all business. But after town meeting, at soon after town meeting, we'll have a meeting where we can decide on which committees we'll all be liaising with. And as Peter did when David and I came on the board, I think, I'll provide the list and current assignments, but please just provide, your choices as to the committees you want to be assigned to, whether or not other members are there already. And then, just sort of in order of preference, and then we can sort it all out. It worked out pretty well last time. And just because you're a liaison, or just because you're not a liaison, doesn't mean you can't work with a committee. It's just sort of, you're the prime contact person for that committee. So just wanted to mention that's coming if people were wondering. And then just also wanted to mention that I had a fantastic lunch at the senior center yesterday. Well, I didn't eat very much because I was talking to people the whole time, which was great. I think David did the same a month ago. I think Peter's scheduled for next month, and I believe Heidi's going to be reaching out to schedule Katie and Mary Ellen. And I think we're going to try to, schedule these out, sort of for the year or for like 8 months. So we just sort of have it there in your calendars and just make it a regular thing. It was awesome. It's great to be there. There's so much going on there now. And everybody was very friendly. So it was great. So I just wanted to thank Heidi for having me and look forward to doing it again. With that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, sorry, I didn't hear it. Peter Spelios.
Aye.
Mary Ellen Fletcher.
Aye.
Katie Phelan.
Aye.
David Grishman.
Aye.
I am also an aye. Thank you, Ethan and Amy and Sean, Patrick and Diane, and everyone else.
Have a good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night, everyone.
Thank you.
Night.
All right. Good night.